Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane, where the takes have no lies, no bias, but most importantly, no shame. I'm your host, Shane Fordham, but today is no ordinary episode. I am not alone. Very special guest I'm about to bring on here. Sports legend, baseball icon, trailblazer, the one and only Miss Mo'ne Davis. Mo, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Feeling great.
It's been a minute since we've gotten to talk. I know I interviewed you a couple of months ago, leading up to the WPBL tryout. But how you been? How you been since then? I know it's been busy for you.
Yeah, it's been a lot, but I'm kind of just staying away from socials, just kind of taking time for myself because when I was there, I did a lot of interviews, long days, long nights. So just kind of taking time to myself and just, kind of get myself back into just being me, really.
And now that the tryout is over, you said it yourself. It was a real busy weekend. How does it feel to kind of simmer down a little bit, kind of calm down? I'm sure it was a lot of back to back, things you had to do, drills, interviews, like you said. I mean, how does it feel to kind of, you know, relax a little bit?
Um, Honestly, it was great to relax. Like you said, like they had us doing a bunch of different drills, going to this field, going to that field, outfield here, infield here. You got to go hit. You got to go. It's just a lot. If you're a pitcher, you got to go warm up. So it definitely was a lot. But I know, just from that tryout, I went into that tryout thinking, all right, this is my chance to see where I am after not playing for 5 years, limited practice. Let's see where I stand and let's see where the competition stands. So now that I'm home, I'll take some time for myself. The draft will happen. Then after the draft, just, getting the plan development plan from the teams, from the coaches, and then taking that into the winter and just working my butt off this winter, working with my teammates that I played with growing up. They're pros, so doing pro workouts and making sure that when the season comes that I'm 100%, 1,000%, and that I'm just there to help my team every day.
For sure, for sure. And there's no doubt this was a huge, huge deal. I mean, we were kind of talking about it before. Huge environment. You said that it was not only a lot of people that were trying out, I believe over 600 athletes trying out, but it was also, an event that people could come to and sort of watch y'all, do what y'all do, get that work in, get the drills in and everything. Looking at how big of a milestone this is for women's sports, women's baseball, let alone with your history, and your love for the game, what motivated you to try out for this league, once you sort of got the news?
Yeah, it was a few different things. The first was I decided to sign myself up probably in like March. I decided to sign myself up for flag football. So I knew I wanted, like, I'm not done playing sports. I'm still young. I just wanted to just try new things. And flag football is like the next big thing in the States right now. Like, that's the sport that all the young kids are playing, older people are playing, whatever. And so I signed myself up for that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to play quarterback. Why not? Like, I have an arm. I've always wanted to play quarterback. So let me do it. And I did not realize the league that I signed up for is actually very competitive. So that kind of gave me my competitive edge back. And I'm like, I still want to keep playing different sports. I had my own summer basketball league this year and competed in that with, some of my closest friends, my cousins, my brother played with us, competed in that. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not done, competing. And then when this came up, my coach, his name's Steve Bandura, he called me and he's like, hey, have you seen, anything about the women's baseball league? And I'm like, yeah, I've seen it, but like, I don't really know too much. I thought it was fake at first because I'm like, it's just like, I didn't see anything else about it. So I'm like, this is not real. Like, this is somebody's dream that, they're kind of just putting out there to manifest it. And then I saw Kelsey Whitmore was signed, and I'm like, oh, like this is the real deal. I saw Alex Hugo doing a bunch of different interviews. So I'm like, oh, this is real. So Coach Steve's like, just think about it. You don't have to say yes or no right now, but like, I think you really be, a key staple for that. And, this can go a long way. This can open up plenty of doors. And so I'm like, all right, let me just think about it. I talked to my team, they're like, hey Mo, like, I'm like, I think I want to do it, but I'm not sure. And I'm like, this can open up different doors for me, different opportunities. I'm like, he's and my agent's like, "Hey, you're right. Like, you're young, you're active right now. Like, I don't see what's stopping you. Like, you don't want to wait too long to get going." So I'm like, all right, like let's do it. I got the owner, Justine. I got her number. I had a conversation with her, and she just put it out there like, hey, if you don't want to play, there's chances for you to be on the sideline. You know, you could do media broadcasting. She's like, we want you a part of it, but if you don't want to play, that's perfectly fine too. We just want you a part of it. So having that option to not only play, but to be, on the broadcasting side, like that was also a plus. So I'm like, they're really like they're serious about this. They had a great team out there running the tryouts, which was amazing. I knew a few of the coaches, and I got closer to the coaches that were running it. So, just being able to talk to them, build connections with them, that was really special. So, I just had a fantastic time, and it kind of brought that spark back and that happiness back and that fun back for me that I had when I was younger playing.
So, I mean, you were going to be involved in the league regardless, it sounds like, but
Yeah.
it sounds like something just kind of flipped in you to just want to actually pick up the baseball again. I
Hmm.
mean, what did it feel like to pick the baseball up again, to be out there kind of flying around, flying around and everything, just taking part in the game itself as opposed to the media side, because we know you're well versed in both, but I mean, how did it feel to, physically be involved in the game itself?
Honestly, it felt great. Like first time I get out there, I stretched, and I was doing media before my initial tryout. So I'm like stretching, and I'm like this feels good. Like this really feels good. Like I'm out here. It's a nice day. It's a nice field. You have other baseball players out there. I'm like, this is great. Like this is really good. And then we did base running first. And I'm not the fastest person ever. So I'm like, oh man, like this is what we're starting with. I'm kind of nervous. But it was simple base running. Did the base running, did a nice slide. And I was like, oh cool. Like I feel great. Then we started throwing, and I'm like, okay, my arm doesn't hurt. Like I feel really good because before when I would throw, my arm would hurt a little bit. But I'm like, that's just kind of knocking the rust off. Like it'll be fine. Didn't feel any type of arm pain. And then I was in the outfield. I did really well in the outfield drill. So I'm like, okay, like this is good. Like I really still got it. And then I threw to second base, and I threw a rocket to second base, and I almost hit somebody in their head. And I was like, oh, I felt bad, but like same time they were in my way, so I had to just like they had to learn to listen. So did that, and then I threw on a home, and I felt really good. And I'm like, okay, I think I can throw a bullpen. And so they coaches came out to me like, hey, like Mo, whenever you're ready, you can throw a bullpen. We're gonna throw to an actual catcher, and I knew the catcher name's Danae, so I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, let me go hit first, and then I'll call you. She's like, cool. Go over there, call her, have a little catch. And I was I know every other bullpen I threw before then, I'm like, all right, everything's kind of high, curveball's not really working. It's just like just really knocking the rust off, getting the feel back. I go in the bullpen and I tell the coaches, I'm like, hey, I'm not sure how this curveball is going to turn out, but don't judge me. And they're like, we're not gonna like, why would we judge you? Like, let's just see it. So I threw it, and it was one of the best curveballs I've thrown in such a long time. And I shocked myself. They're like, I thought you said it was gonna be bad. I was like, I don't know what that was. Like, I wasn't expecting that either. And then the pitching coach, he like showed me a different grip on the curveball, and he was like, if you throw it this way, you'll have traction off your middle finger, so you'll really get the spin. Figure that out. We're throwing strikes. I felt like I was throwing pretty hard too. And then afterwards, I'm like, dang, like I feel really good. Like I felt I felt great leaving that. Like that was my goal, was to leave it all on the field that day, and that's what I did. And I walked off happy with my performance, and I feel like the coaches were pretty impressed too after hearing that I haven't played in 5 years. But just that first day was amazing. Like I really felt good, but I started to feel it after that too. I will say that the next day after, I felt it all.
Felt a little soreness was starting
Uh,
to creep
a
up on
little,
you.
yeah. I felt everything. I made sure I stretched. I stretched that night. I stretched the next night. I stretched in the morning. I was doing all types of stretches, and I'm not a big stretcher, but I was like, I need to stretch.
And speaking of feeling, I mean, You talked about clearly day one was a great tone setter for the rest of the weekend for you. But I mean, just looking at where you did that, like where I mean, this was sort of your reunion from football. You said you hadn't, I mean, football, baseball. You hadn't played baseball in 5 years before this tryout, officially. I mean, talk about this environment a little bit. Like this reunion environment you had. I mean, 600 athletes, 600 female athletes competing for really a historic league in sports, in all of sports. I mean, describe what that atmosphere was like, what that environment was like, your first time sort of coming back to the sport in this setting.
Yeah, no, the environment was great, honestly. Like, I feel like whenever I would go to like see like combines and stuff with the men, it would be very quiet. Everybody's kind of there for themselves. No one really like, hey, good job, cool, like you got it. Nothing of that nature. So I kind of knew, like, just from going from softball to baseball, I kind of knew like women are different. Women are very encouraging no matter what the situation is. You're gonna be encouraged to do well. You're gonna gain some confidence from your teammates. And so as soon as I got out there, the lady in front of me, she started talking to me, and then the lady behind me, she was talking to me as well. So I'm like, oh, okay, like this is nice. Like I feel good. And it was just like they're all just like cheering each other on. And I was like this is a totally different environment, but it was an environment that you want to be a part of because it's for a good cause and everyone's there to. Some people are there to fulfill the dream that they've had since they were younger, but they weren't able to continue on with it. And some people are there just young, just love the sport of baseball and just want to be a part of it. But the environment was great. My throwing partner was 48 years old. She was telling me about her life. She was super nice and she was just happy to be there. And so just seeing and hearing stories like that, you just kind of get encouraged and you want the best for everyone. So that's kind of what was going on. Everyone wanted the best for each other. And it was just such a fun environment, honestly.
And I know you said you felt like you kind of accomplished what you wanted to be able to accomplish day one, sort of the
Mhm.
output that you were hoping for. Do you feel like with how historic of a moment this was for everyone, in sports, for women's baseball specifically, do you kind of feel like all of you all were kind of working together to accomplish a goal or coming together to accomplish the same goal in a way?
No, definitely for sure. I feel like the bigger picture, everyone was working. But deep down inside, there were still people competing for spots for the league. But no one was like out there selfishly. Like I didn't see anyone that was out there just for themselves. No matter what was going on, people were, on the base path, somebody that you talked to on Instagram or whatever, like you were talking to them, having a conversation with them. But I just think everyone understood, how it's been 70, 80 years since we've had a league for women in baseball in the States. And so I also found out that that was the first time that people of color were also going to be part of the league. So there was a lot of first going on, and I think everyone just was excited to be a part of it and just wanted it to come true and for people to have their dream come true. I think that's what was the bigger picture for a lot of people. No one was like truly out there for themselves.
And looking at that, it's an interesting sort of mix of focuses in this, right? Because I mean, this league is obviously a big deal, not just because it's the first women's baseball league, but the first time women of color can play baseball as well in a professional setting, as you just
Mhm.
said. How important is having that balance of competition? Because obviously all of you guys were out there fighting for your own spot, on a team, for the season that's getting ready to come next May. How important is that balance between competition, and competing for a spot, but also balancing that with, you all sort of all still at the end of the day working towards that same goal in terms of making this league better, starting the league
Yeah.
off on the right foot.
I just think so. I think there was 10 countries that were represented there. And so you had, people from Japan, Korea, Australia, all over. So once you were in between those lines, it was just competition, like you're playing baseball. And so I think that's what was great Canada as well. I had a few Canadians on my team. So I think it was just knowing like we want to put on the best show we can. And it's also it's not like this isn't like pickup. Like it's not like a pickup baseball game, but you always, no matter what's going on, you always want to do well. Um, so I just think just having, different backgrounds out there, different, you had softball players out there. Like I said, you had 10 countries represented. So like you just everyone just loves the game. So when you have that love for the game, the competition is going to always come, and it was just so much fun. Like I got to play with women that I got to coach with who are on the national team. I got to meet Ali Schroeder, who, her best friend is Emma March, who also was in the Little League World Series with me in 2014. I got to play against someone, and I got to play against a kid in Little League whose little sister looked up to me, was me for Halloween one year. She was out there competing too. So like it was just such like a full circle moment. But when you love, like I said, when you love the sport, the competitions are going to always be there. And it was some of the best competitions that I've been a part of, and just to see that it was all women, like it was definitely special.
That's crazy. I mean, it's honestly, I mean, I was excited before, but it's making me even more excited to see how this league kind of unfolds in its first
Mhm.
season. Well, first the draft too, but like the actual season itself. Just seeing and knowing what all is sort of packed in this story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and looking at that, I mean, did you ever think that you in your lifetime you would see, because you like we said, like there hasn't been a professional women's baseball league since I believe the 1950s, and there hasn't been a professional women's baseball league like this, that included not just white women but women of color, minorities. Like, did you ever think you would see something like this in your lifetime or ever?
Um, I definitely had a feeling that it would happen. I just didn't know when. With women's sports being so popular, you have the WNBA, you have the NWSL, women's hockey now, women's softball is doing well. Like I knew it was bound to happen. I personally didn't know the amount of women that actually still played baseball. So I think that's where I kind of got lost at, because you can't have a league if you don't know, the numbers that you're going to turn out. But it was I knew it was going to happen eventually. I just didn't think it would happen this soon, this early. But I think the founders made a phenomenal team around them. Um, and they're doing a great job with socials. They're very active on social media. I think that's where the traction's coming from. And it's like I said, like you said, I said before, like it's the first year. There's gonna be some issues, but that's with every league. That's with every new anything that comes around. There's going to be issues that need to be cranked out. So I think once we get through that, the years to come is going to keep growing. Baseball is becoming really popular within the girls, younger girl generation. So it's going to be special for years to come. But I mean, I thought it'd be a little later. I didn't think I'd be 24 when this would happen. So to be real, yeah.
you, you didn't think you'd still be in like your playing stage. You thought
Yeah,
maybe you'd
no.
be coaching or
I
something.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna be a little older. Definitely like, yeah, I'm kind of done. But the crazy thing is, I actually was done playing baseball. Like I always said, I never wanted to be in the MLB. There's interviews out there where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be in the MLB. I just was kind of done playing baseball. But when you have the opportunity to play with women and to play as such an historic, time, um, I think that's where you kind of your that flip switches and you're like, all right, like I want to be a part of that.
So this league kind of revived your love for the game, or I guess maybe your love never went away, but revived your want to actually play the game.
Yeah, I think it was more of like, how you just have to take a break from things for a little bit and then like you come back to it. I think this is what it was. Like just taking a break, cuz since 2014 it's been baseball, baseball, baseball. Like whether it was playing or working, I think every year I've been a part of some type of event that involved baseball. So kind of, this I would say this year So 23, I worked with the Dodgers. 24, yeah. So like this entire year, I did nothing related to baseball at all. So taking that little break away from baseball kind of allowed me to miss it, and then want to get back out there and seeing all the women that I know that I've gotten to coach with, like I said before, like seeing them a part of the league wanted me to be a part of the league as well.
Wow. Okay. And you talked about how, the time that's passed since 2014, and since then, it's not like you haven't been doing anything sports wise. You obviously you played softball at HU,
Mhm.
I believe for how was it 3 seasons or 4 seasons?
It was actually a year. Only played one
A
full
year.
season. Yeah.
Okay. Dealing with injuries and stuff like that.
COVID. Yeah.
Typical COVID too. That
COVID
was
really threw it off for sure.
yeah. That was our whole sophomore
Whole
year pretty
sophomore
much.
year, part of well, you played freshman year, but it was mostly my freshman year and all of sophomore year.
Yeah, true, because it was in the spring. It was the
Yeah.
spring of our freshman year. Yeah. Dang. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, you've at least been, at least in that sort of workflow. That sort of workout flow, that competition in the softball
Mhm.
arena. Sort of being who you are. Obviously, being well versed in both sports. What would you say was the biggest difference for you in regards to softball and baseball?
I think going from throwing a softball to throwing a baseball is one of the hardest transitions that people don't realize. Like you go from throwing a ball with your entire hand to throwing a ball with just three fingers. Like when I first made that transition, every ball I threw was into the ground. Like I was at a baseball tournament. It was probably my junior year of high school, and I literally did play the tournament because I couldn't throw. Like I was telling my coach, I'm like, you can't throw me in there. Like everything is spiked, and I didn't know how to fix it, but everything else is basically the same. Like I feel like nowadays softball coaches are teaching their kids baseball swings, quick hands, getting the arm back, not shortcutting anything. So I think that was kind of the easiest part because freshman year, our coach at Hampton was she like didn't really change my swing up, didn't tell me shorten up, do this, do that, like this how softball is. She literally allowed me to just be myself, and that was just my baseball self. Um, but other than that, like the transitions weren't bad. Like everything was pretty easy just to flow into the next because I played shortstop, I played second base in softball, and that just kind of transitions to just throwing overhand. So it's not really too much of a difference. But when I first started, it was the size of going from the softball to the baseball was probably the hardest.
Okay. And then how would you say sort of transitioning, in your transition back to baseball, getting ready for this tryout and everything? What would you say the biggest challenge was, maybe aside from throwing? What was the biggest challenge for you in terms of getting back in the swing of things for baseball specifically?
The biggest challenge, I would say, since it's summertime, um, just really finding time to, you know, get that practice in. Like I started YouTube, I started streaming. Like I've had the time to like kind of think about what I wanted to do. And so since I wanting to do content, that was my priority this entire summer was to just work on the content, do the content. And so when this came up, it's like, dang, like I already had stuff planned, but now it's like I got to try to find time to also get myself back into the baseball shape. So that was honestly one of the hardest things now that I think about is like scheduling, like trying to fit in time to go down to South Philly and practice. But now that I know like this is what I want to do, now I have a better opportunity or I have a better chance of making my schedule work to where I can do content throughout the week, but also I can go get the work in throughout the week as well. So really the scheduling, I don't think anything like physical, like, oh, I need to start doing this. I need to start doing that. Like, I feel like that's all going to come wintertime. But what I was telling you before we started was going into the tryout, I just wanted to see where I stood competitively. I don't want to, yeah, it'd be cool to be number one pick, but I don't expect to be the number one pick. A lot of the women that were out at the tryouts have been playing for years. Like they're still playing. They've probably been playing all summer. I haven't really played all summer. I haven't seen live pitching for 5 years, maybe more. But I just wanted to see where I ranked, and so I'm able to come home, take this little break, and then once I get started this winter, I'm able to know what I need to work on, and that way when I come back, I can be a totally different person that they're not expecting. But this tryout was a tryout for me. Like this was a personal tryout for me to see where I stood, so now I can just do the work.
And you touched on a few things. I definitely want to touch on the draft. I mean, that's going to be a huge, huge moment, not just for the league, but for you specifically. I mean, just with what your journey has been. But I mean, you talked about this was a test for you. You wanted to see what you were capable of now at this point in your career, at this point in your life. You wanted to know, what you would be able to bring to the table. What would you say what are you most confident in your game right now? Like, what would you say your biggest confidence is, or where do you have the most confidence in your game, where your game is right now? I know you talked about how your fielding you think that's going to be sort of a smooth carryover from softball, similar mechanics. You talked about the challenges of pitching. Obviously, that's a different motion in terms of pitching a softball, pitching a baseball. Well, I mean, what are you the most confident in right now about your game heading into this new league?
Honestly, I would probably say my defense. I feel like I've always been more of a defensive minded person or player. So I'd say I'm more excited about my defense. I am trying a new position though. I put outfield as my primary. Um, but I was able to really get some work in and reading the balls off the bat. That was very normal, and even my first step was very quick and easy to read the ball. So I think my defense is definitely my strong suit. One challenge and thing that I really need to work on and really focus on would definitely be my hitting. I've never been like the strongest hitter, but just being able to just be a contact hitter, that's going to be my main focus. So working on that, working on small mechanic tweaks, like, just missing the ball. What am I doing? And knowing when I do mess up, knowing what to fix. So really getting to know, my body, my swing. So that way I don't, get into slumps. I know it's an easy fix. Go fix it on the tee, go fix it in the cage or in practice, whatever. And then being able to, bounce right back.
And, you talked about, sort of trying out a new position defensively. You're used to obviously being infield, right? Being a
Yeah.
pitcher, but before college. In college, I believe you were shortstop, right? Like,
Yep.
and that's obviously that takes it seems like it takes quicker reaction when you're in infield as opposed to outfield. How do you think that sort of, that skill set you were able to develop playing infield, those traits you were able to develop playing infield will sort of help you in that transition to being able to play outfield as well?
Yeah. Like you said, like the reaction time is definitely quicker, but as an infielder, I always anticipate it. So I'm always expecting the ball to come to me. And I think with outfield, just taking that same mindset, the ball's like I'm always going to expect the ball to come to me. So that way, if it's a little blooper, I'm expecting the ball, so I'm already on my toes, so I can have that quick first step to get there. But also being a vocal leader in the outfield. As shortstop, I was always tasked, and even at second base, always tasked to be the leader of the field. You know, talk to everyone, make sure everyone knows what's going on. So I think for the outfield, that's also going to play a part as well as knowing what's going on, making sure I'm communicating with the left fielder, right fielder, and, just doing my job. So that way we're all kind of as a unit in the outfield. But the biggest thing is just anticipating the ball to come to me, making sure, I read the ball correctly, thinking like an infielder thinks. If I know somebody's stealing and I get a ground ball at shortstop, I know I'm not throwing the ball to second base. I'm going to throw the ball to first base because that girl already has a jump. So as an outfielder, I see the same thing. If I see the girl stealing, I know if it's a ball hit to me, she's most likely going to go to third. So I'm going to come up throwing the ball to third. So just thinking ahead before I even get the ball, just knowing the next play and even helping my teammates out of knowing the next play.
And working on that communication, working on that sort of vocal ability. I mean, what would you say? I mean, how do you think that's coming along so far? I mean, how do you think that will sort of progress towards by the time we get to, May next year or this time next year?
Yeah. I just think just opening up a little bit more, like, of myself. I've always been pretty quiet, pretty shy, unless, we're close, and, I can get a little loud. But I felt myself definitely opening up and, expanding my network, and just talking a little bit more to people. I think that really helps. Like, during the tryouts, I was, one of the first to go and introduce myself to people. Just because I know how nerve-wracking it could be. I know how I would feel. So just kind of opening myself up to people to, kind of build that chemistry early. And just communicating with, once the draft comes, just communicating to, my new teammates, kind of talking to them, having, maybe we're gonna have team Zooms or whatever, but just, just talking to them, communicating with them, building that bond, so that way when the season does come, the communication is already there. We already know how each other are. Like, we know how people work. We know people's communication style, so it'll be a little easier to, to once we get on that field, that communication is just gonna be, we're all gonna be on the same page.
Well, knowing how you get on the game, how you get on Warzone, I don't think the vocal part is gonna be an issue with
Nah, nah, nah.
with the
It's different though, because you don't listen. When I play with you, you don't like to listen. You just like to go off by yourself. I know with women, we're gonna work as a team. So my communication in Warzone is definitely gonna be different than when we're on the baseball field. You know?
So you're saying your teammates are more cooperative than me. That's what you're
Yes,
saying.
yes.
Okay.
Because you'll push a team of four when you're by yourself. You know, they'll wait for the whole team before they go push. You get what I'm saying?
Do you at least give me the heart characteristic? Can you at least say I got heart? The fact that
No,
I'm
you
willing
do.
to take
You
on
do.
that responsibility?
I will give you that. You're not scared of anything. We'll tell you, hey Shane, like, you definitely shouldn't do it. And you're like, nope, I'm already here. And you go for it. And I can't blame you. You're from the city. We are very passionate about things. And if you want to go do it, you have the confidence to do it. And I give you a lot of praise for that, because in Warzone, I'm scared to push at least two people. So for you to go push four, I give you all credit.
Facts, facts. That means a lot. Thank you. I really appreciate that compliment. And hopefully, I'm assuming your teammates, your professional athletes in this league should be a little less hard headed than I am. On a
Definitely.
regular basis. I would assume. I think that's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
But but when it comes to we talked about your transition from softball to baseball. The things that you're looking to work on in this new league. I mean, in this tryout alone, was there a specific, I know you talked about overall challenges, but was there a specific challenge that kind of stuck out to you in this tryout that, you think that had to work a little harder to overcome, or you think will kind of make you a much better or stronger player, as we get closer to, the season starting up in May?
Um, I would say, like, taking care of my body, just making sure I'm available for my teammates, for the coaches, because I had to sit out for 2 days. I was able to hit, but just not being able to play the field, I kind of felt a little useless. Not useless, but like, I didn't feel like I was helping as much as I wanted to. Um, so just taking care of my body, making sure my body's healthy. Because injuries really hurt the team in ways that people don't realize. Like, possibly being the starting center field, starting second baseman, shortstop, wherever I'm gonna play. Like, you want to be as healthy as you can be, because if you're not, that throws everything off. If I'm the vocal leader and I'm not out there, that's gonna throw everything off, because I could be used to talking to someone this way, and then someone else new comes in, and someone's not used to how they communicate. That could throw everything off. So just making sure I'm taking care of my body, making sure I'm healthy, and just constantly stretching. I feel like body health is very important when it comes to sports, and staying injury free is going to be a big deal for me.
Okay. And looking at that, health aside, obviously that's huge. That's a huge focus, for an athlete, working on staying
Mhm.
healthy. Something a lot of athletes struggle with, so, but aside from that, I mean, what's something that you are really focused on accomplishing in your first season in the WPBL? Something that you would like to either prove to yourself or just prove to the masses, prove to those watching the game of baseball, those who love the game of baseball. I mean,
Mhm.
if anything, I mean, is there anything that you are super focused on accomplishing
Yeah,
in your first season?
definitely being a tough hitter to get out. I feel like that's gonna be a main focus of mine. Like I said before, hitting is gonna be a main focus. So making sure that I'm a tough out no matter what's going on. I'm a tough strikeout. If I strike out, I'm gonna strike out on 9 pitches. I'm gonna keep battling to get that pitch count up. But every putting the ball in play, almost every at bat, that's gonna be a focus of mine. Making sure that I'm able to just put the ball in play and make things happen. And then once I get on the base pass, just cause chaos on the base pass. I feel like over the years of playing baseball, I've been able to see things that a lot of people don't see, and it's always you always want to take that extra base when they give it to you. So taking advantage of that extra base. So being a hard out at the plate and then taking advantage of the little things on the base pass and helping my team score.
Okay. And how do you think, I mean, this is going to, no doubt, there's a lot of athletes that are going to be coming into this league that either have similar mindsets or have their own goals that they want to prove. Just a huge arena of competition in a way that we as sports fans have never seen before, in a lot of our lifetimes. I mean, how do you think this league, this WPBL, with a lot of athletes that I'm not going to say like you, because there aren't many athletes like you, but all athletes in their own right. How do you think a league like this might change the landscape of sports as a whole? You talked about what you think it might do for women's sports, with how, women's sports is obviously and rightfully so trending up right now. But what do you think it'll do for the sports landscape as a whole? Or what do you hope it might do for the sports landscape as a whole?
Um, I think as a whole, I think just giving women just respect. I feel like even after so much has happened, women still don't get the respect that they deserve in sports. Um, I think that's a big thing. Like I just threw out the first pitch at the Nationals game, and since it was a collab post, I see all the comments coming through, and like people just don't respect women. I don't know if that I'm thinking it's an insecurity that they have within themselves, so they kind of push that out onto other people. But I just hope all like just the entire league, after the first season, whatever, that people just respect women. Um, because we're out there playing the same game as guys. We're probably putting the ball in play a little bit more because no one's throwing 105 miles an hour every pitch. So it's going to be a lot more, ball being put in play. But also just kind of people realizing like baseball is different from softball. Like women should be pushed to play baseball. I mean, women should be pushed to play softball. They should have the option to go play baseball. So I feel like that's some of the big things that I hope this league changes for, just the entirety of sports.
Would you say that's what the outcome you're most excited to see from this league? Or is there something else?
No, I think what I'm gonna be excited about is just more of the positive side, more of the positive support from other athletes, from supporters. You never want to dwell too much on the negative, but just the positive side of the love and support that this league's gonna get.
And, looking at that love and support, I mean, how do you think this will, I mean, what do you think this will mean for, younger, you know, girl athletes, young girls who love the game of baseball, who want to play the game of baseball professionally, grow up to be like you and others who will be a part of this league? Or, I mean, most importantly, you, of course, but like, I mean, what do you think this will mean for them, being able to see you guys perform on, to compete on this big stage?
It's gonna be a lot for sure. It's gonna show girls that you have a future in the sport that you love. Growing up, I didn't want to play baseball, but if I did, I wouldn't have had something to look up to. I wouldn't have had something to work towards. So for them to see women, women of color, women from, different countries, seeing them compete in a league that they are going to be able to play in, it's going to give, more girls dreams of being professional athletes. Um, like there was a little girl out there at the tryouts every day. Her name was MK, and she was just saying how, how inspired she was by seeing everyone. And now that, she's seen this, she has a future in baseball. So I think that's the big thing, is allowing little girls to see that they have a future in this sport.
And knowing that you have little girls like that, like MK, who are watching you, watching these athletes accomplish your dreams and their dreams. I mean, how does that feel? Like, I mean, or how do you prepare for a stage like that? I mean, you're obviously no stranger to big stages, but knowing the amount of eyes that are on you, in this fashion, making history, especially those who are looking up to you, how do you
Mhm.
prepare for that stage knowing, you're being watched?
Just going out there and putting on the best, competition you can. Just going out there and competing at the highest level you can. I feel like that's probably the biggest thing. I think a lot of people will really question the competition level. Because you can, you hear about the USA team. Oh, you have some people from the Canadian team. So they might think, the competition is, just kind of all over the place, but the competition is going to be phenomenal. So just going out there and competing our best every single game, I think will be a huge difference for this league. But just seeing what it was on Monday, seeing everyone compete on Monday, I just know the competition is going to be past what everyone else is thinking. So I think people should really get excited for the product that's going to be put on the field.
For sure, for sure. And looking at your journey specifically, this kind of being the next page in your story. I mean, like I said, you're obviously no stranger to big stages. 2014, the last time you were on a national stage like this, Little League World Series, you made history. You're making history again now, being a part of the first ever women's professional baseball league that's all inclusive, first ever women's professional baseball league since 1950s, but the first league of this kind where it is inclusive to women of all backgrounds. How do you, and I know this is sort of a maybe a tough question, but I mean, do you think that adds any extra pressure knowing that, when people see you, Monet Davis, on that field, they see at the same time that historic, that trailblazer, that icon in sports and baseball. Does that add any extra pressure for you knowing that when they see you through making history, they see you through that history making moment, especially now that you're doing it again?
Um, I don't think it adds any pressure. I think that for me, my mindset is just to focus on you know the preparation. Obviously I'm going to do the preparation, so that part's going to come easy. But focusing on what's in front of me, which would be my teammates winning the game and coaches. um and I think everything else kind of will just follow. If you just kind of, if I'm just out there playing my game, I don't have to worry about any type of pressure. It's baseball. Being successful is getting 3 hits out of 10. In any other scenario, that's not successful at all. So it's going to be a sport where you're not going to do well majority of the time, but just being myself and playing my game, I feel like that's the best thing I could do, and just going out there and competing, to where I just won't really focus on the pressure aspect. Um, like I try not to pay attention to any type of negativity, but I understand what you mean by, like, I did all of that in Little League. People are going to expect the same thing, but you have to realize, I've grown. I've done different things in life, and that it's a totally new competition. Um, that they kind of have to let go of what happened before and just focus on what's going on now, and just kind of enjoy what you're seeing on the field.
And speaking to that, enjoying what we're going to be seeing, looking to the future. The draft day is coming up in October. I mean, what are your emotions? What is your thought process? What are your emotions like heading into that moment? That's going to be huge for you. So we talked about this a little before. I mean, what are you? I mean, how's your thought? What are your thoughts towards how you're going to feel in that moment?
Um, Honestly, I don't know. I feel like it hasn't really hit yet. I feel like it won't hit until probably closer to, the draft date. I'm not quite sure how they're gonna do the draft. I'm not sure if they'll do it like every other league where, you get a phone call, talk to manager, whatever. So I'm not really sure, but I know it's gonna be very exciting. As a young kid who, always had a dream of being a professional athlete, wanting to get drafted, just to be able to get drafted and, really consider myself a professional athlete, it's gonna be really cool. But I'm excited, but I don't really feel that right now because it's so far away. That once the time gets closer, then I know I'll be super excited. I'll be nervous for sure. Um, I know people are gonna hate. I know that, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm just worried about just getting drafted and, taking those next steps to, getting to know my teammates and just kind of just get going and getting into the flow of, baseball and having a great off season.
And Mo, I mean, this is going to be, I mean, again, we know how huge of a moment this is going to be, obviously not just for you, but just for all of sports. In closing here, what is a message that you would like to relay to, young girls who are going to be watching this moment, this history unfolding on television? I mean, what's your message to those girls, who, are going to be aspiring to achieve that moment themselves, who love the game of baseball, just as much as you and love the art of competing?
Um, my message would be just to continue on working hard. I feel like with adding this league, that it's gonna seem like, you have to have the mindset that nothing's impossible, that everything is very possible. So continue on working hard, having fun. I feel like a lot of people, it's been very serious lately, so a lot of the fun has been taken out of it. But having fun, um, staying in school, networking. That networking is huge because you never know who knows who. Um, but having fun and working hard are two of the most, important things I can say. And also just being yourself, being a good person to those around you can really go a long way. And that's what I've been preaching to a lot of people. But, just continue working hard. Nothing's impossible. You're able to do whatever you put your mind to. Don't let anyone stop you from doing that. And, women's sports is on the rise. So if you want to get involved, I would say get involved now because, it's gonna keep going up. I don't think it's gonna stop anytime soon.
For sure, for sure. Well, you all heard it here first from Monet Davis herself. That's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And I'll be back later on with more Shameless Takes. Mo, we'll have to check in after the draft, see
For
how you're
sure.
feeling leading up to the season. But that's all we got for today. See
Let's
y'all.
do it.
Appreciate you,
Thanks,
Mo.
man. See ya.